Dak Prescott got paid. So what might Josh Allen be thinking? Plus, Mitch Morse is coming back with less in his pocket. And which tight end are the Bills going to chase after now? That's all coming up on this week's edition of the Buffalo Plus Podcast.
All right, welcome to the Buffalo Plus Podcast presented by BuffaloPlus.com. Dan Fetes, Mike Catalana. I am Jenna, Cottrell. We're going to be talking about what this now means for Josh Allen because Dak Prescott, he got paid this week signing a 4-year extension, $160 million deal, $126 million of that is now guaranteed. We know Josh Allen, he's coming up on his 4th year in the league. Mike, what do you make of what this means for now Josh Allen and the possibility the Bills are saying, okay, let's get a deal done?
I think the Bills would like to get it done. I think what it shows with Dak Prescott is it doesn't matter the circumstances. If they think you're the guy that can play, you are going to get paid. You know, there was some thought that Dak waited. You know, he didn't get a deal done. And then, you know, he got hurt. And the question was, oh, boy, man, he got hurt. Now what's going to happen? You know, and look at what they paid him. Because he's one of those quarterbacks, right? He's one of those guys that somebody is going to pay. The guy has put up big numbers. Josh Allen's going to get paid. He is. Yep. The question, Dan, for Josh is, when do you want to lock in? I personally think no matter when you lock in, the next guy is going to get more than you. I mean, who would have thought a year ago that Josh Allen might get more than Dak Prescott? Right. As big as Dak's deal is, Dan, Josh might get more.
Well, that's what's funny, Mike. You talked about that Dak Prescott is the guy, you know, that you're like, he's one of the guys. Nah, I think he's almost just, he's the next guy. Like, that's just how these contracts go. You look at throughout the years, quarterbacks, like this is how the quarterback position goes. And as we've talked about on this podcast several times, I was going for a walk today with Renee and my daughter Shane, and I was trying to explain to her why Dak Prescott's contract affects Josh Allen. And it is nice to try and simplify things to non-sports people, and that way I feel more able to explain it. But yeah, this is just how it goes. And like I said, maybe if they would have gotten a deal done sooner, maybe you could have gotten Josh Allen for 36, 37 million a year. Well, now, as I tweeted out, nobody was happier about Dak Prescott's deal than Josh Allen and his agent. They were imaginary doing Scrooge McDuck dives into pools of coins, knowing that now they're going to get, Josh now says, I'm better than Dak. Yeah. I'm the next quarterback that's up. I get my money. Bottom line. So again, it's Mike, you talked about when to get that done. I don't know who's the next guy that comes up and says, okay, I want 42. And then the Bills now say, now we got to pay him 43. Like it's almost like, and again, there are bad deals that happen and deals that haven't kicked in yet. We can look at Carson Wentz. We can look at, you know, Deshaun Watson's a different scenario because Houston just seems like a dumpster fire, but it is kind of that thing of wanting to set your own price before some other team sets the price for you.
It's so true too, because I feel like, you know, now that this Dak deal is done, like you said, Josh Allen is like licking his chops like, okay, I know that I'm better than Dak. I know that I'm going to make more money. And originally I thought maybe coming into the season, maybe the Bills wait. Maybe they put Allen on the back burner in terms of doing a new deal because let's be real. We know the salary cap is not what it has been in the past. We know that means it's going to be tough for Brandon Beane to kind of maneuver. But at the same point, the longer you wait, the higher that price tag we know it's going to be. It's going to keep on elevating with Lamar Jackson. I don't know what the Browns do with Baker Mayfield in terms of their deal. And just when you look at it, Mike, it's like now where I thought that would be something that they could kind of cross off the list a little bit later. I feel like that's something that comes not right to the top, but you're like, wow, this makes it a lot more of a different situation going forward.
Yeah, I think you're right. And I think the other part is what you do with Josh Allen, your quarterback, dictates a lot of the rest of your cap and the rest of your entire roster, right? When do you get that done? It's funny. You talk about the Wentz deal. The interesting thing about that was it did not hurt the Eagles until basically before it really even kicked in. That's how quickly that went bad because they did it early. So you can do it early and save money, but if it's the wrong deal and it kicks in later, then that's a problem. You could say the same about Jared Goff and his deal. The Deshaun Watson one, only because look at it. If you were going to trade Deshaun, you would have much more likely wanted to trade him before you gave him the huge signing bonus. And now you got the cap hit that you have to deal with if you deal him. And look, Russell Wilson wants out. and his cap hit that goes against the Seahawks if they were decide to deal him. So it's a good deal until it's not, right? Even Dak Prescott. I was thinking about this with Dak, and I thought, well, the guy has been a pro's pro. He's been so good, and then he got hurt. And, everybody felt for the guy because he sort of bet on himself. But now he got paid. So what happens if he gets hurt next year? And then the question is, wow. And he's just starting this new contract with the big bonus. So there's always a risk. There is always one. To Jenna's point, I think the Bills want to get it done. I think they can push the money into it. And Dan, the good news is ABC and Fox and Amazon, they're all coming up with the cash. So that new TV deal is going to come in, and that salary cap's going to explode up.
I thought it was as we learn more and more about the contract, because the first number that comes out, we all go, oh my gosh. And then you actually look at the contract, you're like, well, it's not really that. Like Jenna said, it's $126 million guaranteed. As of what we know right now, they can always finagle this thing. It really is a 2-year deal, and then you reevaluate everything. But the way that the Cowboys have seemingly managed this contract, with a lot of it being a signing bonus. Like Dak's making like $76 million in the first year with the signing bonus. And like the last 2 years, there's not as much of a cap hit. Like that might be something, like you talk about like setting the market. That may be something that Brandon Beane can now look at, because again, Mike, you talk about it. It's a good deal till it's not. All of these deals, it seems like every quarterback deal kind of trumps the previous one. And everybody's trying to get their quarterback at the price that they want, and then not be caught with their pants down the road. And to see how the Cowboys have kind of manufactured this deal from all signs. Again, I'm not a capologist. I tweeted the one day, I said, I know as much about the cap in NFL contracts as I do about how planes fly. Like, I understand that planes fly, but like, if you had to like have me do a presentation, I'm like, how does it fly? I'd be like, not really sure. Mike, we would need your nephew, who's the capologist.
Yes.
But I just look at this and I go, like, maybe there are some things that Brandon Beane can see in this Dak deal to go, okay, like maybe we do more signing bonus here, and that saves us in the cap here. And if I'm Josh, like, and I'm a quarterback, like, yeah, I'll take $76 million in the first like 2 years into my bank account, like, good. And then we'll deal with something else. Because Dak could get another big deal. And maybe that's something that Josh wants to do again. But do not ever give a knock against somebody that says like, well, Josh should take a pay cut so that they can win a Super Bowl.
Oh, please. No,
guys, that doesn't happen.
You're not the hometown.
Count your chickens, right?
Yeah. And stop making the excuse of Tom Brady. A couple of things. Giselle makes more than him. And two, that's
the key. That's the key.
There's some behind the scenes
make more money
scam that the Patriots had going with the TB12 stuff. Who knows what he's got? Is it free lease deals? However, they're saving him money. Please. I get so tired of hearing about that. And by the way, who were the Patriots spending money on that they weren't giving to Tom Brady?
Yeah.
Like, were they ever that team? So it's like, if you were Brady, I hear all that. Oh, Tom took like, okay, whatever you want to say.
That was what Renee asked. She went, when was Tom Brady the highest? And I said, well, okay, like, look, now it's like a TB12 method, and like, it's like LeBron and like contracts with movie deals. Like, Renee, it's very murky. And then we ended it.
Yes.
I will say though, I wonder, like, with the Patrick Mahomes deal, having it be $500 million and things like that, obviously that's a longer term deal, but like, how will that affect the Chiefs now going forward? Like,
he's going to renegotiate that deal.
Yeah. But I mean, just in general, it's like, okay, I get why there's wanting to do it now. And then I also understand, like, I mean, of course, if I'm Brandon Beane, I'm going to see what the number is, and I'm going to try and haggle. But at the same point, it's like, look, it's not worth that in some degrees, because you have what you have. And we all know having a franchise quarterback is where you got to be if you want to be top in the NFL. And
you do. And you got to figure it out. Mahomes has already won a Super Bowl and been an MVP. Okay. So he's already got that in his pocket. Like Russell Wilson does, like Aaron Rodgers does. Josh Allen doesn't have that yet. And his ascension has been fantastic. The next step is a small one, but it's massive. You know what I mean, right? He's made it to the AFC Championship. He's got to make it to the Super Bowl. He's got to win a Super Bowl. And maybe he does win an MVP. He had a great year. He could be so good next year. He could have one of the great seasons in Bills history and take a step back. That's how good he was last year.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's basically what Jim Kelly did for a few of those years. And then there's what Josh Allen did last year. So he established that, but you're going to pay him. You have to at some point. It is. So fans know, he's going into his 4th year. They have the 5th year option. Mm-hmm. Then they have the franchise tag. Then they could tag him again. You don't have to make this call yet. But if you do that, you are putting huge number on that year of the cap. You would rather get a long-term deal done and spread out the cap hit, but they don't have to do that.
Mike, you say that. You always say you could always do these things. It was the same thing. You and I got into this about Trey White, that you were like, you can get that 5th year
with a corner.
Sure, but it gets to the point of, does Josh want to be, he was asked the question after the postseason about his contract. And again, it was only because the Bills were winning. It was really we only got to really ask him at the end of the year after it was over. But I just don't think you want this contract hanging over your franchise quarterback's head. I didn't want it over Trey White because I thought it sent a bad message that you're going to pay people before you're actually going to pay Trey. That I thought you needed to get him locked up to say, you've done everything for our organization that we could ask for and more. Play on and off the field. You've earned this. Josh's play, I think, has earned him this.
Okay,
as you said,
maybe
it's Jim Kelly and Josh.
He's had one great year.
Yep.
He's had one great year, and it was great. And I will remind people that Carson Wentz had a year like that too.
Oh, that's terrible.
No, I will tell you this. And Jared Goff went to the Super Bowl. So don't pretend that teams aren't somewhat concerned about that. Yeah. Like they look and they go, okay, like Lamar Jackson was MVP of the league last year, banged up a little. The offense wasn't quite the same. You just said about Baker, like, when do you make the call? And I think Josh has done everything the organization wanted.
Yeah.
But I still don't believe that they're going to make a bad call for them. And if you're Josh Allen, you're going to get paid at whatever point. You're going to get paid. I just don't see it going backwards for him. He's going to get paid, whether it's this year or next year or the year after that.
I guess the thing that I think of is you're right. Josh had a phenomenal year, a career best year. And now the goalposts have been moved back yet again. Mm-hmm. And now it's how do you really go out and you want to have him build off of that, but the expectations are now higher than ever. There's not a lot of room for error, and there's a lot of room for things to get bad. Now, I'm not saying that I hope that happens or I think that'll happen, but at the same point, it's do you wait to see if maybe this year was, I don't want to say a flash in the pan because I feel like that's disrespectful but maybe the ceiling. Do you wait to see if maybe there is a difference? Or do you try and lock him up, Dan, as soon as possible, knowing that, like you said, the message that it sends and the messaging it puts into the locker room?
Well, that's a great point, because we'll go back to my walk.
You play a player for how, you pay them on their contract, like Mike always says, for what they're going to do.
Yes. Yeah. But what are you hoping to, if you wait, are you hoping that Josh regresses so you can save $2 million to get him at 30? That's what I'm saying.
No, but I think what I think of is the Carson Wentz deal with maybe when a little more time would have panned out, you would have the opportunity to be
But here's the thing about this.
Won't do all
and I will say this. Here's the thing about the Wentz deal. It was not just about the money. The Bills are smarter than the Eagles were. Yes. They are a smarter organization with the people they have in charge now. They also didn't get full of themselves because they won it once, which is what the Eagles did. And they thought they were making the right calls because they went out and signed Wentz. And there's a false narrative out there that he had not played well, which is ridiculous. He had played well. His drop off this year, but even that, he played every game the last 2 seasons. He got hurt in the playoff game itself, but he had played. So all that stuff was heading in the right direction. No one questioned it when they signed him, right?
Right.
His drop off this year was a failure of the entire organization to support their quarterback. Yep. And that's why they end up taking this hit. If there wasn't the problem with Carson Wentz and management even on a bad year like this, they would have chalked it up to a lot of bad circumstances and he would still be back. But they made every mistake along the way. The Bills aren't going to do that. And Dan,
exactly.
I'm not saying that they're hoping he falls back. I'm saying is they might want to take a breath and see how it maps out and push it towards next year's cap. And maybe it's during the year and it's an extension and the big hit is on next year and the money's coming through. Josh Allen's done everything the organization wants as a quarterback.
Correct.
He deserves his place with the organization there.
Correct.
I don't see him taking a massive step back, but I also think teams are going to go, all right, Deshaun wanted out, Wentz failed, Goff is gone. Like, that's a lot of dead cap money around there. And I think, and you're going to look at Dallas and say, Dallas did it with the signing it's the Cowboys. They were on every network all the time. They did it with the franchise tag, got through this part, and now they got the long-term deal with the guy.
Yeah, and I feel like Brandon Beane, he has said multiple times in interviews, I want to have to pay Josh. I want Josh to make the big money.
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, that means that they have their guy.
When you draft a first-round quarterback.
I feel like you have to have the 1,000-foot view, though, too, of overseeing everything and being like, look, this is what we want. This is the track that Josh Allen is on. But I feel like you have to, maybe that's not what you base your decision on, but you have to process and be like, okay, what happens if this? What happens if Josh isn't quite as good? You have to be able to process all of that. Now, do I think that's what is going to happen? No, but I feel like if I were Brandon Beane, I would work through every scenario to prepare myself, because let's be real. It's the NFL. Really, there's a lot that can happen.
Absolutely. And this is, when Mike talks about Wentz and Goff, and last year we were having this conversation probably around this time that Allen could be Mitch Trubisky. That's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
And so again, now it's moved the goalpost. Now, like I said, I had tweeted nobody was happier than Josh Allen when Dak Prescott, and people are like, oh, well, he could be the next, like Mike said, he could be the next Carson Wentz. But Mike, but you said it. It was an organizational failure throughout.
Yeah.
The Bills are not in that situation. And to say Goff, they have the Rams did everything unconventionally that Brandon Beane would never do, of mortgaging every single draft pick and just going completely off kilter with what it was. The progression of Josh Allen was much more linear than most of those guys. So again, when people talk about this, is well, he could be this, he could be that. It's I just don't. He doesn't have to be a failure. He doesn't, and I think they're going to sign him. I agree.
I think we may hear something soon, but I'm saying is because this is organizational. This impacts every player on the roster in 100%. One form or another, impacts every decision that they make. These things are in their mind when they're looking to make this deal. And it is year 4 of what is a 5-year contract in the NFL with the quarterback. They have him under control for this season and next season if they want to. Mm-hmm. And I'm saying is, but what the Bills want to do is make this long-term move when it makes the most sense for them. And I think Josh Allen will be ready to take the money. He ain't going to be a free agent at any point, right? Yeah, I mean, that's not happening. And he'll play. And even if there was an injury or a regression this year, he may still be in line to get it. But if you're Josh Allen, and it isn't a great 2020, and like I said, he's still good, but he's 21. Mm-hmm. If he's good, but he's not. That's why if they come to you now with the deal, I think pretty much you're going to be on board with signing it. It makes sense.
Right. Yeah, but that's the thing too, is that we have learned over the last decade that the highest paid quarterback is not the best quarterback.
Oh, right.
It's just whoever's turn is up. So if I'm the Bills, it's Josh's turn. Even if he plateaus a little bit, has a similar year, and doesn't, he can't keep on the astronomical increases that he did from years 2 to year 3. But I'm just saying, he's going to get paid anyway. I get it. So whether you're working that out, Mike, I get it. You're working that out to where it best suits your cap, because Beane has done wonders with the cap since he got there. So I guess I just have all of that faith, knowing that he's not going to shoot himself in the foot just for the sake of signing Josh Allen.
Yeah, you're right. And the other part is, I think Lamar Jackson's right there too. And we have to be fair to Lamar. He won the MVP The year before Josh Allen had his great year, he took his team to the playoffs again. Both quarterbacks, Josh had a better playoff record this year. But I would say Josh has been okay in the playoffs.
Sure.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's
and like
safe.
Lamar, there's a lot of room there. I mean, Lamar threw a pick six that won the game for the Bills or put it away in this game, but Lamar became MVP the year before. So he's right there with Josh. And the Baker Mayfield one is really interesting. I think that's an organization that should wait.
Yes, I agree.
Because Baker's been good, but he isn't Josh should be a lock as the guy. And I don't mean he's going to be great every year, but he does everything you want. I mean, the guy is just that kind of teammate and all those things. I think it is. But I'm saying to you is with this weird year with the cap, it may not happen right away. And we're saying all this, and 3 weeks from now, they could be announcing a mega deal for Josh Allen. But I think they're going to the file smart.
Got to love the NFL. Well,
because Mike, I think that's a great point. It's just kind of wrapping this up is the fact that there's been so much instability in Cleveland that it's almost like, let's make sure the earthquakes and the tremors and all of that stuff is over before we step outside and look around to see what the damage is, because that's where it seems like the Bills have their GM, they have their head coach, they are there, and Josh seems to be all, everything they say is that he's their guy.
Here's a good example. Let's put some truth serum to the 3 number 1 guys. We'll take Sam Darnold out of the mix. There's 3. If you could trade him straight up for Deshaun Watson, Cleveland says yes. Baltimore, even though they won't admit it, says yes. The Bills say no.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Right?
That's a lot.
And I said Kyler Murray for Deshaun Watson straight up. Who says no?
Oh, absolutely. Houston says no.
Yeah.
Kyler Murray
not going to play.
Kyler Murray won me my fantasy football league this year. I just plugged him in every week. He ain't Deshaun Watson.
I don't know who the backup is in Houston, but I think he's going to play.
We're going to find out.
Because I don't think Deshaun Watson's going to play.
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating.
All right. Well, let's get into more Bills stuff, because we saw this week that Mitch Morris, the Bills center, restructures contract. Basically, he'll take a $2 million reduction in his salary for this upcoming season. It's something we discussed, knowing that the Bills would be a little hampered by the salary cap. Mike, what do you make of that? Because, sorry, I don't. It was agreed upon.
It was mutual.
It was a mutual decision.
It was mutual. And all of the state media reports are the Bills say it was mutual. Yeah. Okay. Mutual. You know what's mutual? Dan filled in for me on Christmas Eve. Okay. That's mutual, right? Okay. Is that fair to say?
That is the perfect analogy.
If Dan was picking, he wouldn't go to his wife and say, oh, I get to work Christmas Eve, right? But I've been here 100 years, so Dan worked on Christmas Eve. So that's mutual.
All breakups are mutual, right, Mike?
Yeah. Hey, what's the one from the guy from Coldplay was uncoupling, whatever it was, whatever they called that?
Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
But what I'm saying is, look, it's $2 million. Mitch Morris knew his number for this year probably puts him where there's a little red alert there that it's a high number. Mitch Morris is still making a lot of money. He has a chance to make some of it back. But I laugh at this mutual. Mitch was like, oh, Brandon, you know what? You got other guys to sign. Here's a couple million. Just spread it around and maybe I'll make some of it back. No, but it made sense for Mitch too. He probably didn't want to go anywhere. He's got another year with the Bills. He wants to stay. He's making a good salary. Maybe he makes some of it back. But please, this wasn't a restructure pushing it into later years where you get the same money. This comes right out of your pay. It's $2 million.
Yeah.
So stop with all of the, it wasn't. Yeah. Okay. Mitch didn't walk up and start writing checks to the Bills.
The analogy of working on Christmas is perfect.
It was Christmas Eve, I volunteer. But yeah.
Because I volunteer.
Did you?
No,
I don't even remember.
No, Jenna's worked last Christmas.
I worked Christmas.
Because I worked Thanksgiving.
Now I know what it was. Dan and I mutually agreed that you would work on Christmas Eve.
Yep. All three of us. It was all mutual.
It was mutual.
But like, yeah, the thing we were talking about before we started recording this podcast was like, the reports coming out, like Mitch called up Brandon and was like, you know what? I'm making too much money. Here, you have some back. Is just, like I said, they are people too. Mitch is a human being with a family and a wife, and saying like, yeah, we don't really want to move again, and getting cut would kind of suck, and that would kind of be a pain. So it is different, because the last time I remember a Bills player restructuring was Richie, and that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
But did Richie, you see that Dion was like, Dion Dawkins on Instagram was trying to talk to
but that was when Richie kind of went off the deep end. Well, and then he was off the. I mean, not that he was never.
He spent a lot of time there, so he knows that. He knows that port well. But that's restructuring
was like the deal
too. Yeah, it's basically a cut in this case, and they said it didn't push any money. But like I said, look, I'm not holding a telethon for Mitch Morris here. He's very well compensated, but this is when I say about this. What people have to understand about the way the NFL is different. Think about it. You sign these deals, right? Yeah. I looked it up. Dak Prescott had the most guaranteed money in NFL history. In Major League Baseball, with current contracts, we've lost somebody. With current contracts, Dak Prescott's deal is 32nd in Major League Baseball. Hugh Darvish makes the guaranteed money that he makes, because in baseball, all the money's guaranteed, just like in basketball, just like in hockey. So my point is these deals, and then I only reason I get frustrated is I hear people, when a guy will say, he wants more money now, he wants this, and people would be like, he signed a contract. Not in the NFL, you didn't. You signed a piece of paper, you're going to get the guaranteed money. The rest of it is just numbers written on a page, and the team can adjust. Mm-hmm. And in baseball, you can't go to Giancarlo Stanton and say, you're hurt 50 games a year, take a cut. He's getting every penny of that money. So players know it. They know that's the world. And I think Mitch accepts that. It's not like they cut his salary by 80%. He's still making a lot of money. Yeah. But it's a cut. And, there's some incentives, but there's even ways, Jenna, that they present the incentives and they count differently on the cap. Like if you said, if Mitch Morris gets, $1 million, if he scores 10 touchdowns this year, that would be an unattainable bonus. Yes. So that's thought of differently than it would be takes 50% of the snaps or whatever it is. So.
Yeah. There's a way to work it out to get that money back, but it just doesn't have the same type of cap hit that would have been if it was just straight up in his deal.
And I give Beane all the credit to pulling this off. And not necessarily pulling it off, but kind of being able to finagle this where it's not a headline like you cut your starting center or anything like that, but just the fact that you did shave off a couple extra bucks. And we talked about, what's John Brown going to do? That's another guy that we've talked. Like I said, we are seeing the Dianna Russini bloodbath that she tweeted about last week. Like we are starting to see it. A lot of people are not getting tagged that we maybe thought. A lot of people are getting cut that were surprises. Mm-hmm. And I don't, Morse would have been the one that not necessarily would have been surprising, but we talked about that would have been a big hole to fill. Like you would have needed to fill your starting center. And again, how often have I preached about how offense is the most important thing in this 2021, this new age NFL? It's like, you also have to keep your franchise quarterback back. That's an MVP caliber guy, like upright. Like that is the most important thing. So they still have some pieces to fill in around him, but at least they can know that there's no question. I mean, I guess if training camp Morse could be cut again, I guess that's a possibility. But just the fact that they know they have their center, and who's going to be in front of Josh.
But I think the John Brown one is different.
Completely.
I think strategically on the field, it's not like John Brown's going to come back for nothing. John Brown will find a job in the league if they do let him walk, and cut him. But I think they have the guy in place that can replace John Brown on the roster. I think they drafted him, and it makes sense to do that. It's not that they couldn't, but it's not like John Brown's coming back for the veteran minimum here. If they decided you're not cutting him down to that, so I do think that's a little different. in terms of how they would approach it, because the other thought had been you sign John Feliciano to move him to center. Now, maybe he doesn't want to do that. Maybe John Feliciano wants to stay at guard. Maybe he's like, look, I think about signing here again if I'm a guard, but I don't want to play center. Otherwise, I'll go free agency. Because the players now have, in this case, the tag is gone. The players have the ability to become a free agent.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt
and that
Milano
makes sense
not
too.
tagged.
Right.
Yeah. And that makes sense too in terms of Feliciano, because there is more choice and he knows that he could find a job somewhere else. And you're right. I don't think John Brown's the same situation because, you have one center, you have one starting center, you have multiple. I mean, I know there's different roles in terms of wide receivers, XY, stuff like that. But at the same point, like, you've seen that Gabriel Davis can carry the water.
Yeah.
And that's something that's a huge responsibility to have someone else fill in, especially if maybe Feliciano says that he doesn't want to be a more hybrid role or anything like that.
And it follows the plan, which was draft a guy, hope that within a year he's ready to. And I thought Gabe Davis showed them pretty quickly that he could ascend to that. And then he showed that ability to stay on the field. That's not even a knock on John Brown, because if they didn't have Gabe Davis, I don't think they're doing that. And we don't even know for sure that they will. It just seems that way. By the way, Jenna, you brought up the way you said that. It made me think of something. People will always say to us, like, doesn't Matt Milano want to be on this team that could go to the Super Bowl? And what about, John Feliciano? I think he loves his time on the Bills. But, man, I'm on the players. You got to get paid. All things being equal, you want to be in a certain circumstance and all. But a lot of these guys, they're not getting that quarterback money. Like, you got to, when you can get paid, you get paid. And
yes, Mike, that's exactly how I feel.
Going off of that, it's as every free agent is, the vets are all getting released or not franchise tagged. The Romeo Okura out of with the Lions, a lot of those guys. Carl Lawson, not franchise tagged either by Cincinnati. All of these guys that are coming up. It's so funny that realistically, every Bills fan's like, oh, they totally want to come to the Bills. Like, oh, absolutely. Every free agent wants to come to the Bills in Bills fans' minds. And it's not going to happen. Some of it will be because X, Y, and Z. Some of it will be because the money is not as good. But that's what you talk about, Mike, like John Feliciano and these guys. It's like, why wouldn't he want to come back? It's like, I don't know. Millions of dollars is probably a good enough reason.
Dan just broke news. Every free agent is not signing with the Bills.
There it is. I will say one other thing.
Source.
Yeah, one other thing. I do have one little source that can give you this tidbit. The source that I talked to that's been really good with me, he said that at the time, no team has reached out to the Eagles yet about Zach Ertz. And that was interesting. And that was one of the things that we had talked about, guys, of knowing where messages are coming from and who's narrating what and what's getting released and for why. The Eagles pulled it off with Carson Wentz and said, there are multiple offers. We've got multiple offers for Carson Wentz. And there wasn't. And they ended up settling for the Colts. The source that I've talked to, nobody has made an offer yet on Zach Ertz. But multiple reports came out earlier this week that, hey, guess what? Oh, multiple teams are in, and he could be moved in the next few days.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that won't happen.
No, here's what I think you've got. I think you got a little bit of language, right? I think teams look at it. I sometimes somebody will say, "Oh, you wait till he's cut to make the move." But when he's cut, he's available to every team.
It's a bidding war.
Quite J.J. Watt, where it was all the teams or a bunch of teams, but he's available that way. I don't think the Eagles, if they trade Ertz, are going to get any more than a 5th round pick for him. I think that's what it's going to be. So if he's the guy you want to get, I think a team would make an offer.
Yeah,
they don't
spend the 5th.
Right. They can, and they can do that. And who knows when he's going to be gone from there, but it's too easy to say, well, you wait till he's cut, because when he's cut, well, now you have no advantage to try to get him onto your roster.
100%.
Yeah. And by the way, the one other thing, and I mentioned this, I think to Jenna this week, we were talking, the idea of where players go if they leave the Bills. And, it's like, look at where the Bills are. And I think of a guy like Micah Hyde, who just re-signed. Mm-hmm. And when he came to Buffalo, this was a bad organization that hadn't made the playoffs in 1,000 years with a new head coach, and he's leaving Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Mm-hmm. and he took a chance on Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
He got paid. I'm still not quite sure why Green Bay didn't want to keep him, but they didn't. So he walked, much like Matt Milano was going to leave the Bills, and he signed in Buffalo. And who's questioning that now? So the idea is sometimes people think, well, you're going to go to the team that's good. We don't know in a year or two. I mean, look at the Chargers. Their quarterback could be the guy. They could overtake the Chiefs this year for all we know. Like, you just don't know. Yeah. So that's why you go where you can get paid, unless it's like, I mean, again, like going to Houston now or somewhere that's a total dumpster fire is maybe different. But you just don't know what's going to happen. And I feel for the players, the way the contracts are, when you can get paid, get paid.
Yeah, really, contracts are 2-year deals. Because, like, prime example, Mitch Morse, 4-year deal. He's the highest paid center. Now he's not the highest paid center. He almost got cut after 2 years, but he got his money. Now you have to re-sign it. So, like, even we're looking at this Dak Prescott deal. The Cowboys go to Mike. It's Mike's dream that the Cowboys go 6-10, 5-11, and they're picking in the 3rd spot, and they could be going, well, maybe they move on from Dak Prescott. Like that could could happen. Like, look at Houston. Houston was up on the Chiefs in the playoffs 2 years ago, and now they are the Buffalo Sabres of the NFL. I wanted to get that in so bad. I was really trying to set myself up for that. But yeah.
Okay, wait. So, Mike, you bring up a conversation we had. We were also talking about Matt Milano. Yeah. And you had said before that, Milano, he seems like he would be a great fit in a New England type of style, within the division. And I said, and Dan, I want your thoughts on this, because I was like, yeah, I get it. Obviously, Belichick, the success that they've had, but like, would you really want to go to New England right now?
Ooh.
Right? Like, because we're like, he seems like he'd be a great fit in New England. And yes, like when I think of past, like looking at players like a Stephon Gilmore,
it's a really good question.
Guys like that. But I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I would want to.
Well, that's part of the Tom Brady, LeBron James effect. Like you a lot of times you go and take those 2-year deals where you follow the quarterback or the star, and that's how the league revolves. But if the Patriots have the money and they're one of the highest bidders, you take the money.
They may be forced to do that this year.
Yeah.
Yeah. They may be forced to overpay on some contracts.
I feel like normally that's not Belichick.
You're right, Jenna. And I don't think they're going to but I think they're going to spend some money.
I think have to. They have the cap space too.
They have the cap space, but they're not going to be the one. Not going to be the one getting the number 1 free agent.
They got Jared Stidham to be their quarterback, guys. Remember? Everybody was so like high on him in training camp. Remember that? That was fun.
32 teams will pass on Jared Stidham if he's free. We did mention the tight end. About Zach Ertz. I still think the Bills should be in on him. The guy can still play, whether it's the Eagles cutting him or whether it's trade for a late draft pick. Who knows? It might be a 2023 draft pick. Like whatever it is, I could still see that happening. I think the Colts are going to be in on him. I think a couple of teams will as it gets closer. Deadline spur action is what everybody always says. Hunter Henry is free.
Yes. That's interesting.
And he's talented. A guy like
Does he have any ACLs left? Does he have any ACLs left?
That's the thing. And, some people get annoyed, Bills fans, about Dawson Knox. It's like they love him. I like the guy. I think he's a good football player. But I don't know if I see Pro Bowl, All-Pro talent yet. Maybe it comes around. If it does, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
But I think they're looking about 2021.
Yeah.
There's a drop-off in the tight end market where it's, it really is. It's Hunter Henry, it's Jonnu Smith, and then it's everybody else. And one of the guys that was also brought up that I think could fit, again, it's not as flashy. It would not nearly be as sexy as a Jonnu Smith. Cameron Brate.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Kyle Rudolph.
No, against Kyle Rudolph.
I'm just saying, don't be shocked if you hear that name.
Kyle Rudolph is way more closer to Jason Witten than he is Darren Waller.
Yes.
And that's the type, like he is robotic again. And like, he's a great human being, but like Greg Olsen had more upside this upcoming year when he hit the market. And I went, Greg Olsen could fit. Kyle Rudolph is he's the Phillip Rivers of tight ends right now, in my opinion. I do think Cameron Brate, pretty good filling in when Gronk wasn't great in Tampa Bay, had some success, smart guy, been around the league I think he's been in the league for 4 or 5 years, has some upside, not nearly as flashy. I would consider it like a Tyler Kroft signing where he's always been the number 2 tight end on a team, could be worth it. Just another guy I'm throwing out there because I do think that addressing the offense first is still the most important thing. And I'm telling you,
Jonnu Smith, I like his athleticism. I like the way he plays. And there are certainly issues with Hunter Henry based on the injuries. He's a talented guy. Zach Ertz has been a number 1 guy. He has been a big numbers guy, catches everything. He's 30 years old. He is the type of player they need. At the right price, at the right time, the right type of guy too. I think watching the guy, he's not done. He had a bad year because of organizational failures and bad quarterback play. I think he'd be great. He would be great for this team.
I can see the Bills
to come there.
I can see the Bills being in on Jonnu Smith, obviously because the playmaking ability, that he is younger, but I can absolutely see what you're saying, Mike, when they want someone in terms of maybe going in a different direction because they want that mentor aspect to Dawson Knox because they did invest in him. And you do see the potential and you have seen him make those flash plays, but it's just that consistency is something that really.
I think you're right. Mentor. It's good. It's like Steph Diggs was a mentor to the other receivers. And he also was phenomenal.
Yes.
And I'm not saying that these tight ends are going to be that way. You want them to be mentoring and helping, but he better be able to play.
Yes.
Right? He better be able to play.
Well,
and I think all these guys can play.
Like they were okay with having a player that had a very, very limited role, but was more.
He's a blocker. He's a blocker and a touchdown maker.
I'm just saying, though, they clearly were okay with having him on the roster. I think that was because he was on the roster 2 years ago. I think they wouldn't just go ahead and sign a guy like that, but something to consider because they've had that role before. I think that shows you, though, that they really want that type of veteran presence around Dawson Knox.
And Dan, I don't know what you think about this, but I still think Beane's got a surprise move in him. He's going to spend money in a place that we aren't expecting, whether that's a corner, pass rusher of some sort.
Is that
I saw like Carlos Dunlop is out. There's a guy, he can make some plays, but again, I think they may go younger in that way. It's going to be really interesting to see, but somebody's going to pop out there and Brandon Beane's going to be ready. And I think he's going to surprise everybody.
Romeo, whatever. I can't say his name from the line.
I think it's also interesting. I would be, I'm also just as much excited, Mike, you talk about like the big splash one, as who Brandon Beane signs for a 1-year deal for $1.5 million that plays 16 games. And we all go, man, that was a really good signing. Yeah. For me, it's the two that I like. Kyle Van Noy that became available after the Dolphins cut him. Jack of all trades, can kind of do it all. Comes from a Belichick. Just didn't work out in Miami, but he was a captain. All of those things seem to check boxes that would really kind of fit well if he wanted a 1 or 2 year deal, as well as the right tackle for the Chicago Bears let go. Massey, he was a nice guy that I thought he was making about $5 million. And they cut him. So maybe he's looking for something cheaper, come to the Bills and kind of be that fill-in Darrell Williams.
How about Kyle Long coming back into the NFL?
Ooh. What was the tweet? He was nasty.
Yeah.
He was happy, nasty.
And ready to go. Yeah. All those are possibilities. I think he's going to be, I think he's got something, some type of move. But your point, one, I think Van Noy's going to end up back with New England. Just seems like it, right? It's like, I'm sorry, Bill, I didn't mean to leave you, but they paid me so much, but I got to come back. And then two, I think you are going to see guys signing certain ages, certain places, 1 year, prove it to me deals, because it's a bad cap year. The numbers are going to be low. You stay in the league, you come back, and then you try to get the big deal on the other side of that. So
we were talking about too, the fact that I think you're going to see guys sign a lot faster this year. Because money's
going to dry up.
Yeah, because there's just that salary cap situation. And like Dianna Russini tweeted out, like it's going to be a bloodbath. There's going to be a lot more guys available than maybe in years past.
And remember, with the cuts, it's like they say, it's the team's version of it's not you, it's me, or whatever. When the reality is, he's just not that into you. So teams are going to do that. You're going to see more big names out there on the open market. And I don't know if necessarily there's a surprise one from the Bills. Not right now.
Yeah.
But there's going to be some guys out there that's going to surprise people. And teams are going to be ready to pounce.
Yeah. Ooh, it's like the most exciting part of the offseason. I mean, there's the draft, obviously, but I feel like
Jenna, don't get too excited. I don't want any of these free agents to be tweeting anything fun. So I just want to make sure that's
First of all, how dare you?
Oh, by the way, how about JJ out with his
perfect example?
ice
JJ
bath.
Watt in the ice bath. I was like, I literally unfollowed him. I was like, I don't care.
He's
I
so cool.
unfollowed him right away.
I don't care.
Done.
I did unfollow him too. No, I don't.
How dare you? Circle back to how dare you. All right, we're gonna wrap it up here. This was fun. If you guys have any questions, if anyone out there does, be sure to tweet.
We should do a question podcast next, maybe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, tweet at us if you have, or leave a comment on YouTube if you have any certain questions.
We'll do that next week
to tackle. Get it?
Yeah, free agency gets going.
Yeah,
so we'll be ready.
I was gonna say we'll have plenty more. Be sure to check out buffaloplus.com. Please like and comment and subscribe to the page. We appreciate all the feedback. We have a lot of fun with this, if you can't tell. So we always enjoy when everyone else does as well. All right, thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week. For Mike, Dan, I am Jenna. Thanks for watching.